Welcome to Feed the Blender. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special one-off. Maybe we'll two-off this in the future, but an NFL session of Feed the Blender.
Feed the Blender.
We are halfway through our NFL season. Some teams doing great, bring a lot of joy to some fans. Some teams not so much. It's been an interesting season so far. A lot of teams that are doing quite well that you're expecting to do well. A lot of teams that are sitting real middle of the pack that you would have thought are doing well. Some teams sitting middle of the pack that you thought wouldn't be doing so well. And then some teams that are playing like total garbage. We'll attempt to break down most of them. We'll hit some real highlights here, but why don't we just jump right into it?
Perfect.
Starting with the teams that are doing well, really. We'll start in the AFC too. Just go right down the list here. We'll start with the Buffalo Bills, a team that I think everyone expected to do well. They were so close to the Super Bowl last year. The only team that they've lost to this year is really their biggest competition, I think. Probably
that loss in Miami, right?
Yeah, you know what? It was a loss in Miami.
Yeah. I think Tua kind of snapped in the second half, and I could be wrong, but it might have been an overtime win.
Could have been. It's just hard to say, though, because the Dolphins are one of those teams that are going to put up 40 on you and really beat you, or it's going to be a really close game. Like, they played the Lions this past weekend, who aren't that great, let's be honest. I would have thought the Lions would have been doing better. They're not. But besides the point, the Dolphins come out of that one with a scrappy win, barely getting out, where they also beat the Bills, who I think halfway through the season like we are, most people would probably hedge their bets on them going to the Super Bowl. It's really that simple. I mean, offensively, dangerous. Defensively, dangerous. That addition of Von Miller, whenever he was acquired, insane. It's unfair to teams, really. He came from the Rams, and that was a team that he oddly enough couldn't get his footing on, where now on this Buffalo Bills defense, there's so many other guys there that it's almost like teams forget that this guy's there and this guy's putting up sacks. It's more than his job. He's doing it for fun at this point,
Yeah, and the Bills are number one offensively in the entire league, and I think they're like number 3 in defense. Like, this is just an all-around juggernaut of a team.
Yeah, I mean, really, I would say that Kansas City is going to be their test again this year of whether or not they're going to make it to the Super Bowl.
And they already beat Kansas City too.
Yeah. I think, does that come back around, or is that just the one time they play?
Let me look at their schedule, but all football fans hope, God, that we see actual AFC championship matchup of Buffalo versus Kansas City instead of the divisional round matchup.
That was their only time playing, so it would have to be an AFC championship again, or somewhere in that, depending on, I think, how I'm not very good with the playoff structure for football for some reason, but somewhere in there they'll probably face each other again. Let's be realistic. And I think it's going to be another shootout, possibly overtime.
One would hope. That matchup was so much fun to watch. Not only this year, earlier in the year, but in the playoffs last year. I mean, that was maybe
that should have been the Super Bowl.
Let's
be real. That was better than the Super Bowl. It was just an unrealistic game. Amazing. you just sit there as a football fan and go, wow.
Two best quarterbacks.
These guys can play.
Yeah, two best quarterbacks going up against each other, and the two best offenses going up against each other. You really can't ask for more.
Yeah.
They won't see each other until the postseason again.
Yeah.
Correct.
So everything will be on the line then. So once again, just making for a game that should just be something special. I guess another team that maybe we didn't expect to do so well, but hey, they're sitting at 5-3. You have the New York Jets.
Yeah, the New York football Jets. Yeah.
The Jets are an interesting case. They played well at the beginning. They've they lost to the Patriots, which the Patriots, I think, just have the Jets number. Bill Belichick just knows how to beat them.
Yeah.
And I think that the loss of Breece Hill is huge for the Jets offense. He was so dangerous. And now you're definitely putting it more on Zach Wilson, come out and beat us.
Yeah, which Zach Wilson before this week was 3-0 on the season, I believe, because Joe Flacco started the first couple of games. And Zach Wilson looked like a deer in headlights this past week. I mean, he's not ready to lead like a playoff caliber offense, and it's pretty clear, especially with a guy like Breece Hall going out, who was the main, contributor to this offense. I mean, the defense under Robert Saleh is great. They're 6th in the league, but offense, I mean, they're middle to back half of the pack. So
yeah,
we can definitely see a road where they start faltering out and the plateau starts descending. But to the start of the year, I mean, they've impressed me quite a bit. Like I said, just in defensive tenacity, and their
defense was they're really good. I mean, very impressive. I mean, I guess one thing that you could think to, kind of explain Zach Wilson's performance this past weekend was Giselle is on the market now. So
that is true.
That could have been what's on his mind. So, I mean, maybe he just had to get over this week of the excitement off the football field. Who knows?
I knew something wild was coming on the setup. I knew something.
Another team. I mean,
you would think something. Good.
Oh no, sorry, I was segueing out. But if you got another point,
come on in, Zerch. The water's fine.
Just more so, I'll be really curious to see if maintain like what they've done so far. I do envision them starting to decline here now that Breece Hall is out and he was the majority of their offense. I don't think that they have the caliber to win their division, which if they were going to take off with it, it was going to be while Tua was hurt. So it'll be, I don't envision that they have performances that they did against Green Bay again without their number one offensive target. I mean, their defense is going to be solid and it's going to keep them in games, but I just don't envision Zach Wilson winning them more games as the rest of their season.
Yeah, and I mean they still have the Bills in their division. They were never coming away a first place team unless something dramatic happened. It was going to be who takes second between the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets. Yeah. Right now it's the Jets, but I mean they have the same record as the Dolphins. So, and the Patriots, I mean, they're sitting at 4-4, so they're not far off. It only takes a little bit here to a couple wins one way, a couple losses another, and you got a solid second place team.
The comparison I make,
or really any of them.
Yeah, the comparison I make is they're basically the AFC's poor man's version of the San Francisco 49ers. All defense, question mark at quarterback, but in the most sense.
I mean, the only thing is I mean,
the Niners are actually good.
The Niners are stacked offensively.
Right.
Now that they're out of all these guys being hurt and with the pickup of Christian McCaffrey.
Which we'll get to that. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a whole nother
spectacular.
topic. It's ridiculous to see what's happening in this league. But I mean, like hitting on like just quick the Dolphins and the Patriots. The Patriots are a bizarre team. They've had some injuries. With Mac Jones going down, they were down to a third string quarterback, which nearly beat the Packers. So, I mean, it goes to the scheme that Bill Belichick's putting together game to game. And then the
Still got
Dolphins,
spanked at home by the Bears. Like I just don't know how you allow that as a Bill Belichick team that like relies on their defense being good. Like I don't know how you allow for the Bears to walk in, beat almost put up 40 and call it a day. Like
yeah, that's just, I think it just like the Patriots are so game to game on whether they're going to come out and perform, it seems.
Yeah.
that's what you're gonna have with a young quarterback though, which is like the toughest part about going through the growing pains.
Yeah, a young quarterback or a second or third string quarterback, it's who's playing that game.
Right.
Because if it's not Mac Jones, it's what, Brian
Bailey
Hoyer
Zappi. It's
or
Brian
Bailey
Hoyer who
Zappi?
got hurt. Yeah, Brian Hoyer who got hurt against Green Bay in like the first possession, and then Bailey Zappi.
Yeah,
Zappi's a gunslinger, dude. I'm all about the energy. So
Hoyer
Yeah, I
was
mean-
a former Texan, right?
Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, former Texan.
Yeah, I think you're
I have
right.
no idea.
I'm pretty
think
sure
you're
he was a quarterback for Houston for a little bit.
But regardless, I mean, you got the last team in that division, really. I mean, the Dolphins, who,
They look
again,
pretty
I
good.
think
Ton of
if
talent.
Tua doesn't go down, they are the best competition
Yeah, big time.
for sure. I mean,
Yep.
they,
And them trading for Bradley Chubb is huge too.
yeah,
At the trade deadline break.
yeah, that was a good move on their part, and I think as long as Tua is not playing scared, which even on his first game back from concussion, he wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good team. I mean, offensively, it'll be a shootout. Really, I don't really think like the Dolphins are that great on defense. They showed
They're
up
pretty
against the
solid.
Lions, but the Lions suck. So
Yeah, and with the addition of Bradley Chubb, their defense won't be anything to sleep on by any means. Because the biggest area that they lacked was in pass rush, and that's exactly what Chubb is going to give you. Their GM hit it on the freaking money with trading away their first round pick last year to San Francisco, because they turned that pick into Jalen Waddle, Tyreek, because San Francisco gave up 3 picks for Trey Lance essentially, and Miami ended up getting Jalen Waddle last year in the draft. They used one of the picks for this year's draft, I believe, to get Tyreek in the Kansas City trade, and then they just used next year's first round pick that they got from San Francisco to get Bradley Chubb. Like, their GM struck gold on that. They just have to rely on Tua being that dude for their franchise for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Alrighty. Yeah, I think we can move on to the AFC North here because
AFC or NFC? I'm here to talk about the NFC North.
AFC
no,
North.
let's just run through the AFC real quick. I mean, we can speed this
Sounds
shit
good.
up real quick.
Sounds good.
You want to go to the North or you want to go to the West real quick?
I say we just touch on the North here, touch on the West. We don't have to say much about the South because pretty much sucks aside from Tennessee. So
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, it's, I think, kind of surprising. You do have Derrick Henry on your offense and a relatively decent defense, but I wouldn't have put much to the Titans on doing anything this year. Being 5-2 is kind of surprising to me.
especially after the 0-2 start, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, they've won 5 straight after a really poor start. I mean, granted, I believe one of those losses was to Buffalo, and then the other one was another tough loss. But
I mean, their first their first 2 games were the Giants, who are good, and the Bills.
so yeah, there you have it. I mean, it's 2 above 500, 2 playoff contending teams. So I mean, they're good. Yeah, obviously Matt Ryan underwhelmed, out. Jonathan Taylor, underwhelming this year. Jacksonville's underwhelming this year. Houston's just horrible. I mean,
Arguably the worst team in the NFL.
yeah, it was them in Detroit. But yeah, we can move past that. The AFC North, led by Baltimore. I mean,
It's interesting.
Lamar Jackson's he's that dude. I mean, every year he gets a little bit better in the passing offense, and they're a tough team to beat, especially on the defensive end. They're really solid. So
And they just got better with the addition of
Roquan
Roquan
Smith.
Smith.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Baltimore looks like they're poised to make a playoff run. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Especially
They just need to close games, dude. Like they've had a 10-point lead in every game that they've played in this year, and they've lost 3 of those. Like I think with the addition of Roquan Smith will definitely help, but they just need to like get it done in crunch time.
Yeah, because it's not offense that they're lacking. Like they put up so much points on the board.
Yeah, there hasn't been a game yet that they've put up less than 20. Well, there's been one. It was against the Bengals, but Bengals are pretty decent defensively.
It's not on Monday. We can move on to Cincinnati. They're probably one of my most underwhelming teams I researched here. I mean, obviously coming off of a Super Bowl run, blowout loss in Cleveland on Monday night. Jamar Chase goes down, and it's tough because Joe Burrow is still slinging, but he doesn't have a lot of targets to sling to, and their defense is just not good enough to keep them in games. I mean, they were letting Cleveland drive the football downfield. I mean, Cleveland just ran with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. They just ran down the guts of Cincinnati, and Cincinnati had no answer. So they've just been really underwhelming this year, and they have zero protection for Joe Burrow, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better on the offensive line.
Which is really puzzling to me because they spent like their money this offseason in investing in their O-line to protect Burrow and
the revamped O-line.
Yeah, and we're just not seeing the success right away. Like I understand, like I mean, Kansas City went through those growing pains last year, right? With like drafting a few rookies to go right into their starting O-line,
right,
and having only like a couple of vets. But like this year is like the biggest testament for Kansas City. But like I feel like Cincinnati is gonna figure it out eventually. But it's just like, how many games are they going to lose because Burrow's getting hit 10 times a game? Like at some point, like I feel like at some point, like the light switch is gonna go off, and then they're gonna end up like making a run at the end. Like I don't want to sleep on them just yet.
Yeah,
but
if I'm the front office, I'm extremely worried about how many times Joe Burrow's getting hit during the game. I mean, this is your franchise quarterback who led you to a Super Bowl, and you're just letting him get hit like that. Like
after spending a ton of money this offseason on like what's supposed to be helping him. Like it doesn't make any sense. I feel like eventually like the O-line will mesh together and figure it out. But how long is it going to take? Because they can't afford to lose many games with like how stacked at least the AFC West is with.
I mean, they don't have an easy schedule coming up here. They got the Panthers this week, who should be a win. They have the Steelers, who, if they can put a point.
Yeah, it's a divisional matchup. That's never going to be easy.
Yeah, and it won't be easy. You're right. They have the Titans, which won't be easy. They have Kansas City. They have the Browns again. They have the Buccaneers. They have the Patriots. And then they end on the Bills and the Ravens. Like, they do not have an easy schedule the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to start protecting Joe Burrow. And they're going to have to pray to God that Jamar Chase is coming back in 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's a pretty clear path to them missing the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it'd be unfortunate because I do like the Bengals. I like Joe.
Oh, they're great. And it's great to have a small market like that winning in the NFL. But yeah, they're making me nervous. The other 2 teams in the division, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, I mean, they're just below 500 scrappy teams. Cleveland obviously hoping Watson comes and starts winning them games, but
I mean, but they also Cleveland beat the Bengals with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
And Watson comes back pretty soon here.
Yeah, and
like if he can come back game ready, that team could be dangerous because they'll have Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson,
Mari Cooper.
You know, they're not someone to sleep on. If they can get rolling here, you know, we're going to be talking. They definitely have an easier schedule than the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland
could be the team because they play Miami this week. Or sorry, they're on a bye week this week. They play Miami the weekend of the 13th. They play Buffalo. That'll be tough, obviously. And they play the Buccaneers, the Texans, the Bengals again, the Ravens, then the Saints, Commanders, and Steelers. Like, that could be a team that wins over 50% of their next games.
Yeah.
And every prediction would point to the Bengals losing 50% of their next games. Right. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Browns could really tune it up here. They could. I mean, the Ravens look good, but
you're also
they could put
the hard part is, yeah, the hard. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, I was just gonna finish my point on. I'd be worried if I was the Ravens. Even, I mean, the Ravens are good. They got better at the trade deadline, but depending on what their schedule looks like, and if the Browns pick it up, we could be looking at a team that's winning.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's just I'll be curious to see like who somebody here between. I honestly think it's going to be Cincinnati, but somebody here is going to have to hit like the ground running after like their bye week that they should have coming up here. Just because like I feel like it's asking a lot out of Jacoby Brissett because the Cleveland's 3-5, so you're asking a lot out of Jacoby Brissett to win you some of these tough games in the middle of the season, and then you're also then expecting for Deshaun Watson, who hasn't played in over 2 years, to come in and like fill that void and act like nothing's ever happened.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Deshaun
like
Watson
it's asking a lot out of a backup quarterback.
Week 11.
Week 12 or 11. He's suspended.
Yeah.
Suspended 11 games.
11.
So.
But I mean, you got Jacoby Brissett, who's put up points and put up points against teams that he should have. I mean, there's a lot of losses on here. Let's be realistic.
I don't know. In both of Cleveland's primetime games that Cleveland have played in so far this year, like they've looked solid. Because I'm pretty sure they beat Cincinnati, they played. I don't know if they played Buffalo on like a Thursday night game or something like that, but Brissett looked solid and Amari Cooper looked really solid. So I don't know. I'll be curious to see like who figures it out first between Cincinnati and Cleveland. So
it's gonna be who figures it out first between Cincinnati, Cleveland, and the Ravens. You know, the Ravens have lost a lot, 3 games that they've let in. So, I mean, if they keep that pattern going, and either the other 2 teams start clicking, we're looking at a very, very interesting division, to say the least.
Can I just say it's really hard to like see Pittsburgh being like a bad team right now? Yeah. Like we haven't seen a Mike Tomlin team ever be like not super competitive until right now.
It kind of feels like
wild to say.
The first year Brady left.
Right.
I mean,
right. It's so weird
they
to see
put their
like those
eggs
2
in.
teams.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just wild to see like those 2 teams, whereas like those 2 teams out of the AFC have been like a staple all throughout our livelihoods of like being heavy hitters in the AFC. So it's just like it's super wild to see both of them and like somewhere in between like a rebuilding era where both teams might not make the postseason. Whereas like I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know off the top of my head, but like Pittsburgh might have squeaked into the playoffs last year, or if not, they were like right around 500.
No,
so
I want to say they just barely missed. It came down to that last game.
I think they made it and then lost in the wild card.
Oh, yeah. You know what? You're probably right about that there.
But it's crazy to say, like, when was the last time, like, at least in our livelihoods, that we saw a postseason where neither the Steelers nor the Patriots were in the postseason? Like, it's super wild to think about, like, how much, like, the NFL is changing right now.
I mean, it's the passing of the reins, really, to the next generation quarterback.
All these young quarterbacks.
Does lead us into the AFC West. perfect segue there. And
Yeah.
that dude, fucking Patrick Mahomes, Jesus Christ. This man needs to leave this
Beautiful
league.
Terry. Yeah, beautiful Terry.
There's really
Yeah,
not.
they're definitely going. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going right into this this Kansas City
We have
team.
notes, I
Really.
don't, so.
I mean, sitting at 2 losses, it's kind of one of them comes to the Bills. Okay, we accept that. The other one comes to the Colts, which weird in my opinion.
Early in the year, still trying to like figure out their stuff. It's like they were in the red zone, and like I think like Mahomes like threw a pick or somebody fumbled or something, and they ended up like barely losing that game. But definitely a game that they're probably scratching their heads about.
It was still very close. Yeah, I mean, it was a field goal that made the difference, but
Yeah.
I mean, really, they have a rather, I don't know, interesting schedule coming up. They did just absolutely
had
beat
their
the brakes off of San Francisco, though, the week before their bye week. So
yeah, nothing like putting up 40 in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Interesting though, because it was before some of the trades that happened, or before Christian was eligible to play.
It was in his first game, so they just had like a limited like package for him. So
yeah,
but as we saw with 10 days under his belt this past week, he doesn't need much time to adjust. So
yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean, other than that, like unless Cole, you got something on the Chiefs, I really don't think there's a lot to talk about. They are who they are. They're good.
They're very good. They'll probably go back to the Super Bowl again this year. But we should touch on the Chargers because obviously they're poised to be in a good position. At 4-3, I mean, I think they had a few, like 2 of the first 3 games they lost. And then since then, they've been pretty dynamite. So I'm not worried about the Chargers at all. But
I wouldn't be either.
Yeah,
Herbert's still number 5 in passing.
Yeah,
and they've been super beat up. So like,
yeah, and their defense is awesome. So the 2 teams at the bottom of the division, however, are 2 of my most underwhelming teams that I looked at. Obviously, the Raiders have lost you can make the excuse they've lost a ton of close games, whatever they have, but just the pairing of Adams and Carr in the first year, you kind of just figured it'd be a lot better. And there's a lot of hype around this team coming into the year. So I think they're one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL at 2-5 under Josh McDaniels. They just haven't looked good. They're middle of the pack offensively and they're bottom 10 defensively. Like that's not going to cut it. You're not going to make the playoffs in the AFC with that.
They brought in Chandler Jones.
Say that again?
Yeah, I agree. And they brought in Chandler Jones. I said they brought in Chandler Jones from Arizona in this offseason. Like, so like you expected him to kind of like come in and like light it up for the pass rush, especially with that Crosby dude. And they haven't performed at all.
No, not good. And the other really disappointing team is obviously the Broncos. I mean, I think they're like second in defense, so that's how they've been able to win games. I mean, they're 3-5, so it could be a lot worse. But offensively, they're just horrible. They're horrible, and they're horrible to watch from a fan's perspective. They might have been a part of the worst Thursday night football game I've ever seen in my life. Russell Wilson looks like a shell of himself. This offense is just abysmal. I mean, I don't know what you guys have to say on them, but they're really disappointing.
I mean, you got to say though, those high knees on the plane that he was doing on his way over to London really proved a point when they beat Jacksonville. I mean, come on,
Broncos country. Let's
go. I got to get Ian in here for a Broncos country.
This guy's turned into the biggest fucking meme that anyone could be. I mean, it started with him showing up to practice in his own jersey, which I mean, I think there's NFL players that they said they've never even seen something like that before. Like, I mean, and then oh my gosh, after the game on Sunday, hitting the camera with a Broncos country, let's ride. Unreal. Like,
Hey,
I mean, at least he's riding.
Wait, Zach, I got a special guest to come in hot.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
All righty. That there was Ian Nickel. All righty. Anyways, what were you saying?
no, I mean, I was just getting all the
nothing
all the
crazy.
jokes possible out on this guy. Really.
The
but-
really interesting take that I heard when I was watching the pregame for the Broncos game on Sunday, which I thought was interesting, as I don't remember like who the analyst was, but they were saying that like Russ is trying too hard right now to get himself into the Hall of Fame. Like he's going about the offense like all wrong. Like he's trying to run like an empty set, like five wideouts, and like run the offense like Kurt Warner and just like slinging around. And like I feel like he's just like he's not adapting to the new system well. And then if he has like that mentality, it's just like you got to give what the defense is. You got to take what the defense is giving you, and we haven't. The Broncos players or like the receivers are like visibly frustrated about how stagnant their offense has been, which is super surprising. With Jerry Judy's a stud, Stutton's a stud.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Javonte Williams going down a lot, but I don't know. I just feel like they're stacked offensively, and there's no reason for them to be for their offense to be as like stagnant as it's been so far.
Yeah, and I believe this week they do have a bye, so hopefully, if you're a Denver fan, they can come together on their bye week, figure out some things on the offensive end, maybe even like try to simplify things to get Russell Wilson more acclimated. I don't know what they have to do, but they got to get it done if they want to go to the playoffs, because they're not that far out of it. They still have the potential to make a run, but it's like if you're this bad on the offensive end, you're just not going to win football games. It's just that simple. I mean, you can have the best defense. We've seen teams with amazing defenses and just poor offenses lose games. It's just defense can only do so much if you're not giving your defensive players opportunities to catch their breath on the sideline. Like, they just have to put points up on the board. It's that simple.
All right, so in the NFC East, we'll start with the Eagles. Only 7-0 team in the NFL right now. A lot of controversy because people say they've had an easy schedule so far, which personally I don't agree with whatsoever. They've played the Vikings, who are 6-1 right now. They played the Cardinals, who should be good, and they played the Cowboys, who also should be good. So I don't think they played the Giants yet.
Oh, weird. Disregard.
Yeah, not yet. I think that they play them twice between December and January. So
That sucks.
but I mean, just like offensively, ridiculous right now. Jalen Hurts is playing out of his mind.
AJ Brown, dude.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Especially that last game. That was unreal.
Did you hear they steroid tested him?
Oh, I mean, I can only imagine. But I mean, for real, like you got the Eagles who are doing well. And, you know, really in the past couple of seasons, it's pointed to this direction. I think Jalen Hurts has been on an upwards trend. Their offense has been on an upwards trend in general, really. They've made the right signings. You know, everything was going to lead to them being dangerous. Defensively, I mean, I think they kind of struggle. The Lions put up 35 against them. It was the first game of the season, but the Lions are also terrible.
Yeah,
but
rewind,
you know what?
rewind to starting off 1-1. I saw the graphics from Detroit, like, don't sleep on Detroit this year. As if Jared Goff's leading them to fucking victories. Like, what are we pretending ourselves here for?
I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll turn their season around. I'm hopeful, at least.
Fuck no, they're not. Anyways,
They're
Eagles.
abandoning their rebuild 8 games into the season. They're fucked.
Anyways, Eagles. Eagles are very good.
Yeah. I mean, even like they had the first game of the season, which was kind of shocking, but I guess I'll retract my statement that their defense is good, especially against the pass. You know, maybe it's the run that they struggle with. I don't know, but I mean, I watched games where it was interception galore coming from their defense. So, I
Yeah,
guess
they're
in general,
fourth
they're pretty.
in total yards allowed in the NFL. They're first in turnovers created. They're sixth in passing defense. Like this defense is as stout as it comes. I mean, it's
Yeah.
probably them, the Niners, and the Bills. Those are the best 3 defenses in the entire league.
Yeah, I mean, they play the Texans tomorrow. That should just be.
Scheduled win. Yeah, no doubt.
But I mean, they're really good. And them making a decent run, especially into the postseason, I don't think anyone's going to complain about.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see Philly do well again. I mean,
They're a rowdy bunch. That's for
yeah,
sure.
they're a rowdy bunch up there in the north. Their fans are obviously pretty notorious, and they've been celebrating. The Phillies actually doing really well in the World Series.
Thank God.
Yeah, yep. Not Astros fans here. Staying in that division, though, one of my more honestly teams that I've been impressed with, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
6-2 somehow. Dak Prescott goes down in week 3 with some sort of like freak thumb injury where he hit the helmet of the defender trying to sack him or whatever. And who is his backup? I can't remember, but dude came in.
Cooper Rush, I think is his name.
Yeah, he came in and held it down. And look, I mean, defensively, they're great.
Yeah, they're real scary defensively. Micah Parsons is an animal.
Yeah, they're 11th overall, and offensively, they're nothing that stands out. But I mean, they're winning ball games and they're doing it well. They have a ton of weapons offensively.
You got Dak Prescott coming back. You got Tony Pollard.
He looked great last week.
Last week, yeah. I mean, like, I've been seeing a lot of things that like people say that Zeke slows down the offense, where Tony Pollard is the exact opposite of that. He keeps that tempo going. And I mean, realistically, offensively, they should be good. They have CeeDee Lamb, they have Tony Pollard, they have Dak at quarterback, they have Michael Gallup, and then I mean, Dalton Schultz isn't anything like outrageous, but dangerous enough. Like, they got it on both sides of the team. So there should be no excuse as to why they don't do well.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is probably the best, dare I say, the best division in all of football, with their top 3 teams all being 6-2 or better. I mean, this is a really competitive division, as it is every single year. I mean, I don't expect the Eagles to continue the undefeated stretch. They're going to lose a couple games here. So it'll be interesting heading into the deep end of the season, seeing where these teams turn out. Because, I mean, it's anyone's race, really. I mean,
personally, I'd like to see where Philly loses, though. Because,
right.
I mean, other than maybe the Titans, maybe.
Well, they
have to face the Giants twice and the Cowboys one more time. So,
right. So,
I would say those 3 games are the question mark. But, I mean, one of the games comes against New York on January 8th. So, at that point, everything could be a done deal. And, yeah, we'll chalk it up as a loss because they don't play their guys.
Or at that point, it could mean the
everything
difference between them being a wild card team and them winning the division outright and getting a bye in the first week of the playoffs. So it could be either the most competitive, the most important game of the year, or it could be, as you said, resting the guys because they've already ran away with the division. So,
yeah, I mean, realistically, December into January will make a big difference for the placement of the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Eagles, because
right.
it seems like that's very heavy of the Eagles playing within their division. I mean, they got 2 games in there that shouldn't be anything a problem. I mean, their next 3 games shouldn't be, or honestly, their next 4 games shouldn't be a problem for them. So, I mean,
Here's a question to you, KZ. What do you think is the motive of the success the Giants are having this year? I mean, what do you think it's a byproduct of? Like, what are they doing well? Why are they winning these games? I mean, no one
Saquon
expected.
Barkley. I mean, he's having a season for himself. He's the Jonathan Taylor of this season. I mean, especially like to just break it down to fantasy wise. I mean, he's putting up points, he's putting up touchdowns, they're running things through him. When he's producing, their whole offense is producing. I guess maybe their defense is stepping up as well. But I mean, really, like offensively, they're looking dangerous. Because at the wide receiver position, they don't really have like that great of weapons, I think. So they make it work and then they let him run the ball.
Yeah, and
And
they're
I think that's
middle of
winning
the
them
pack
games.
defensively.
Yeah,
Actually,
They've drafted pretty well.
they're pretty middle of the pack, both defensively and offensively. When I look at it,
could be some dumb luck. Who knows?
yeah, I mean, very well could be.
I'm sorry, but two of their wins so far should have been losses. There's no reason as to why they should have came back against Green Bay and the Bears muffed a punt in the final minute, or in the final like minute and a half. Like,
Would this be
like
the more? Would there be a more perfect time to transition into the NFC North? If we're bringing up 2 NFC North teams, we might as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely skip over the Commanders. I've got absolutely nothing to say about them.
Yeah, I mean, right. So, we have 2 strong opinions. I would make it a third, but I don't think anyone wants to hear my thoughts on Green Bay. I'm about as cynical as a fan as there is. As far as insight on what's going on in Green Bay, let's just start there. KZ, what do you have to say for this Packers franchise?
Holy cow. I mean, where do I even start? I'd like to say that, yeah, we got a lot of rookie wide receivers. Aaron doesn't have people to throw the ball to, yada, yada, yada. But I mean, and then I can go into like injuries and whatnot. A lot of things to point anywhere else but the quarterback. But ultimately, there's been so many games where I've seen throws that aren't getting made as well. Just offensively as a whole, I think there's just so much that needs to be done. We're dropping passes, we're missing passes, we're getting injured. Like, it's shambles. The only thing, the shining light, I think, in it right now is our running backs. And if we're gonna, I guess, take this and just be like, yeah, whatever, scrap it, we'll rebuild around Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I will say though that even in our most recent loss, there's hope, in my opinion, at the wide receiver positions. You see guys that are starting that are year one guys, that we're drafting. We're not drafting guys first round wide receivers either.
No.
We have to take that into account. That
This was, yeah, what you're referring to is Romeo Doubs, who was the second receiver that we selected in this past draft. I mean, he wasn't even our first receiver that we found the most talented in the draft. Like that.
I mean, I'm going as deep as saying the guy that we took 6th round,
right.
His name, like, he caught a touchdown pass and he goes, "Fuck it, I'm not like my intended route doesn't make me open. I'm gonna audible and run somewhere else and just get open. And it's like, holy cow, like, yeah, that's what you guys need to be doing is just make yourself open because
Yeah.
the passes will get there. But you know, that was the one thing out of the Bills game that I was like, okay, you know, this is good. You know,
Yeah.
make yourself open then. But I
Yeah,
mean,
I'll say a
that,
few things. The run defense is pretty bad. The pass defense is actually really good. As
run
KZ
defense has been
mentioned,
bad though for the past couple of years. Like,
yeah, I mean
I
that's
think,
just been a glaring hole that has never been filled, but that's kind of what you get with the Joe Barry defense. But yeah, I mean, as Casey touched on, I mean, we're depending on guys who are in their first year and weren't our number one scouted talented guys. I mean, these guys, we're asking basically these, you know, mid-major college receivers to step up and be number one options. It's just not going to work. We've won games on the defensive end so far this year. We've had a couple of like nice offensive games, but I don't, there's not a clear cut in the middle of whether it's Aaron Rodgers' fault or it's a young receiving core. Like, I think it's a mix of both. Aaron Rodgers just hasn't been the Aaron Rodgers that we're used to. And I mean, as you said, the running game is actually really good. Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, they're doing their thing. They're getting collectively 150 yards per game on the ground. So, I mean, that's all you can ask for from a duo.
yeah, that's one thing that, especially in this last game, that they went back to harder because,
Yeah,
you know, you had Matt LaFleur say, we want these guys getting 30 touches apiece or combine, whatever.
right.
And after he said that, they like didn't do it. And it's like, okay, so why are you saying this? And in this last game, our offense was pretty heavy run.
Yeah,
And I mean, not that we even put up a fight, but there was hope at least in this game. You lost by 10 to the Bills.
yeah.
You know, you went out and
You
you
played
put up,
you played a game you weren't supposed to win, and you didn't almost win, but you kept it competitive, and that's all any Green Bay fan can ask for. Because like,
yeah, and we
if
at the
you
wide
were on the
receiver options were like the worst we've been all season too.
right, and
So
with Watkins having zero release off the line of scrimmage, he can't get open. Cobb's been in and out of the lineup. Watson got hurt. Like,
yeah, Watson
two
got hurt.
quarters
Alan
in-
Lazard didn't even suit up.
like we don't have targets. There's no guy to throw the ball to. You basically have to run the most simple version of your offense to even get yards. So it's just, again, it's hard to tell whether it's the receiving core or it's the quarterback throwing to the receiving core, but it's just not working as a whole right now. And
I'll go out there and say though that also Aaron Rodgers' comments about the offense are just unnecessary. You know,
he's being a diva.
like,
I mean, this is what he's been his whole career. Yeah, I am on the camp that I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run at the end of the year because this team isn't horrible. They're in a division that's not out of reach, at least. Like, Minnesota's a really good team, but who knows if Green Bay cleans up, they win the games they're supposed to win. They could be fighting for a wild card at the end of the year. And I wouldn't want to face Aaron Rodgers in a playoff game, but still, that's all best case scenario at this point. Best case scenario last year and the year before that was Super Bowls. We're down to best case scenario. We're fighting for a wild card. That's the state of where Green Bay's at right now.
yeah, and it also like it doesn't help that Rodgers throws these comments of like retiring and all that shit, and year in and year out, it's like make up your fucking mind, dude. You know, either do it or don't, or I should say either do it or just stop talking about it.
Right.
You know, because it's like it's hard to build a new system if you're like, okay, like hopefully we get this Hall of Fame quarterback back. Like,
yeah, and
you know what are you gonna do? Like,
it doesn't allow guys like Devontae Adams to think that they have like a secure future in Green Bay.
yeah,
But we could talk about Green Bay for hours. KZ and I both feel pretty passionately about the Packers. We live text during games, so it could go on. But we'll move to Big Zerch's favorite team, the third place NFC North team, the Bears of Chicago, Illinois. Zerch.
Yeah, definitely made some splashes this week with unloading Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith. We got 3 picks out of those 2 dudes, which is pretty solid. We'll certainly take that. We got a 5th rounder from the Eagles for Robert Quinn, and then we got the 2nd and the 5th round pick for Baltimore for Roquan Smith. So really hate to see those guys go defensively from at least like a locker room perspective. However, I think that really goes to show how much faith this new regime has in our QB1. So, and especially with, again, we just brought in Chase Claypool. So 6'4", 240, runs a 4.45. Like, he's a big body that is gonna go out. He's gonna get open right away. And on top of that, he's a really good 50-50 ball receiver. So I'm super stoked.
An interesting guy because he's a tight end built receiver who you guys didn't have necessarily. Like, you got Darnell Mooney, who's that fast downfield threat, but you didn't have that guy who's going to bring the ball in like Chase Claypool. So
a possession receiver.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm rooting for that nobody is really talking about is, so this offseason we traded a 7th round pick to New England for N'Keal Harry. It was a 1st round pick from New England. It was either last draft or the year before that. And I truly, like, on top of him being like a little beat up while he was in New England, I just truly believe that he didn't fit their system well. And we brought him in. He busted up his ankle in preseason, and he made his first start not against Dallas, but against New England. And he caught his first touchdown pass last week in the red zone. Again, 50-50 ball, 6'4", 230, 4.4. Like, he's a big possession target for Fields. Right. So my prediction is going to end up being that I truly believe that Claypool and N'Keal Harry are going to shine and truly compete for the number 1 spot. And we'll end up signing Mooney, or we'll extend Mooney this offseason. And we're going to move Mooney into the slot because he's only 5'10". So if we can get 2 big bodies out on the numbers and we have Mooney running around in the slot with the 2-headed or 3-headed like running monster that we have between Fields, Herbert, and Montgomery, like, the offense is something to reckon with. We have $120 million in cap space for next year, which is bananas, and we still have 7 picks. Like, we can.
I'm glad that you brought up the cap space though, because you guys have to pay Chase Claypool if he's going to stay, and he's a guy who's going to take $20 million right off the top there. So
if he performs, sure, but we're getting him for the next year and a half on his rookie contract. And at the end of the rookie contract in 2024, we could always franchise tag him. Like, us getting Claypool now isn't going to hurt us at all. And we could always just say, you know what, like, you're not our guy, and we can move on and explore either the free agent market in a couple of years, or we can look to draft. Like, it's already, like, we're already projected, depending on where we fall, to take the kid out of TCU, who's, again, big body and he's fast as fuck. Like, the Bears we have options. So my guess for this upcoming draft is it'll be dependent on how Claypool does as he gets his feet wet and stuff like that. But I truly believe that we're going to draft O-line, D-line, and maybe another receiver. That way we can just build for the future. Like, I like the direction that we're trending right now.
Sticking to this year in the most non-biased way possible, what do you think this back 9 games are going to look like for Chicago? Do you think they have a playoff run in them potentially? Because they're seated at 3-5 right now, tied for second in the division. Like, do you think this team has a run in them, or do you think this is just a development back half? Let's let the guys get a little bit more like camaraderie. Let's get these guys a little bit more comfortable with each other, and then we'll worry about winning games next year.
You know what? I'll answer that question first. I say there's absolutely no fucking chance that the Bears make a run at the end of the season. Just based off the rest of their schedule, they got the Dolphins, who will put up points and defensively. The Lions, yeah, they can beat the Lions, obviously. The Falcons, who are an odd team, so we'll see what team the Falcons show up. That could be a win again. They got the Jets, could be a win. They got the Packers, I think, in Green Bay. That's a loss. They have the Eagles. That's a loss. They have the Bills. That's a loss. They have the Lions. Okay, so let's say they split on the Lions. It shouldn't happen. They should beat the Lions both times. But let's say they split. So the Lions take the second game, and then they got the Vikings at the end of the season. There's 3 games here that they should win. 3. And
I don't believe we have, based off of how bad our defense has been so far this year, and us getting rid of like staple guys like Roquan Smith and Quinn. Quinn like really produced much for us this year. Like, our offense is going to have to put up a ton of points every night in order for us to be competitive in games. I don't know if we're necessarily ready for that, but I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time the Bears put up we put up 29 against Dallas because we went for a 2-point conversion that we should have just kicked an extra point for. But we've put up 30 almost in back-to-back weeks, which I couldn't tell you the last time that we did that, and an offense that actually looked competent. So, I mean, we very well could see like the offense, and it's weird to say as a Bears fan, we could see the offense like keep us in games. I just don't think we have the defensive like longevity to like actually get us wins towards the end of the year. We're going to need the offense to basically go in and control the game and just like outpossess the other team, because we know damn well they're going to drive down and score on us just based off of like the heavy hitters that we still have in the remainder of our schedule.
Yeah, that's where I'm saying like split with the Lions, because the Lions offensively, they're good. They put up points on everyone. So it's like, can your offense
split against the
put
Lions
up more points than their defense can handle? It'll be that good offense wins games against them both times. I mean, the Dolphins, if they play them this weekend, so we'll know in a matter of days how that one goes. But I mean, offensively, the Dolphins look good, and defensively, they're okay.
Not bad.
You know? Like
Chubb coming in helps, but
yeah. And then I mean,
I don't know. I'd be bold to say that we have 5 more wins out of us right now. So I think we split with the Lions. Depending on if Minnesota is rolling through the North and they win it outright, we could probably win the last game of the year against Minnesota because they're probably just going to sit their starters. I say we're going to split between the Jets and the Dolphins. We'll win 1, we'll lose 1. Justin Fields has been pretty good against the other quarterbacks that he's played so far from his draft class. He's 3-0. So, like, we'll take that. So I like our odds against the Jets if the O-line can hold up. I think we'll beat one of the games of against Detroit. Atlanta's going to be a toss-up. That's going to be an ugly game to watch. I honestly, if Green Bay, I mean, I'm sure Rodgers will beat us because he always fucking beats us. But first year head coaches for the Bears, like the last head coaches that we've had, they've in that coach's like first 2 matchups against Green Bay. So like we obviously lost already once. So I do potentially like our odds depending on where Green Bay's at once we play them at home in December. But I don't know. I don't foresee it for us here. If we win that many more games, this year is built on development, and we're like finally starting to see that out of Justin Fields, which is all as a Bears fan I can ask for, because when he's clicking, he looks fucking good.
Fair enough. Any closing statements you want to say about the Bears?
Not particularly. I think I've said my piece on them. I can't express my like excitement enough about us bringing in like realistically a number 1 receiver in Claypool. Like he was just being completely underutilized the last year and a half.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
He's virtually had no.
So I'll be really curious. Yeah. Right. Yeah, a dying Big Ben, and then the QB battle between Pickett and Trubisky. So I think there's a lot of upside. I definitely think we are going to end up really liking that pick or that trade overall. And I mean, obviously I'm biased, but like us outbidding Green Bay for him just like makes it like that much sweeter, especially like on the rare occasion that he actually like works out.
Alrighty. We can touch on the NFC South really quick.
Should we just real quick though touch on how well the Vikings are doing? I think we're doing them a disjustice.
You know what?
Not mentioning it.
That is a totally fair point. Yeah, go talk about the Vikings. What do you got on them?
I mean, just they're ridiculous on both sides of the football.
6-1 start.
Yeah, their only loss comes to the Eagles, and no surprise there.
Yeah.
But I mean, like offensively, they got better even with the addition of TJ Hawkinson from the Lions, which is a surprising inter-conference trade on their part. But I mean, they're already dangerous. You know, you got fucking Jamar Chase, or Jesus, not Justin Jefferson. Sorry,
Adam Thielen. Yeah, Dalvin
Cook, and now you're adding one of the better tight ends in the league. You're getting more dangerous, and you know Kirk Cousins, as average of a quarterback as he is stepping up and producing. So
yeah, and
there were definitely games that he did not win for them. The defense won that game, and there was definitely games that everyone else, like Dalvin Cook and people, were making the receptions that they needed to. So they won. But, I mean, just in general, things are clicking in Minnesota.
Well, and it's crazy because offensively, they're like 15th in the league, and defensively, they're like 6th to last. Yet they've somehow created this winning formula in Minnesota, and it's just worked. Big plays. I mean, this team is driven on big plays, especially to guys like Justin Jefferson. I mean, the amount of like plus 30-yard catches he has this year is unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I guess as a Packers fan, I'm both not excited, but excited to see, as a football fan, to see what they do the rest of the season and come the postseason. And if they can keep this same winning mentality up for the remainder of that time, it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're far and away the best team in the NFC North. Like, it's not close.
Yeah, 100%.
And then the juxtaposition of the opposite end of that, which we already touched on, Detroit just being horrible.
Yeah, I want to say that I'm surprised.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't be. It's a terrible franchise.
But, you know, they were ending the season so positively last year. You would have thought that they could have rolled into this year. And they started, coming close to beating Philadelphia. And you're like, okay, yeah, Philly was always the better team. You're like, okay, you know what? You almost beat them. Maybe we got ourselves a team. And since then, they've put up points on a lot of teams, and there's been a lot of close losses. There's been a lot of losses that they lose by 3.
I could be wrong, but they might be here. Let me look it up before I say something crazy. But offensively, they are 4th in the league in total yards. 4th. They're 1-6, and they're 4th offensively in the league for total yards.
Yeah.
Like this team should not be as bad as it is on paper.
Exactly. It's their defense, because offensively they got weapons. Their running backs are good.
Yeah.
Jared Goff is a slightly below average quarterback. They got weapons at wide receiver. They have St. Brown.
St. Brown's nice, but defensively they're the worst team.
Atrocious. Yeah.
The worst team in the league. They give up.
It's I'm high on the Packers this week because we have a great pass defense and a pretty good defense in general. So our defense can stop them, and it gives us an opportunity to win a game.
But they on average per game give up 421 total yards, which is the worst. They gave up 266 passing yards a game. And on top of that, they gave up 155 rushing yards per game. That's how bad this defense is. This defense is giving up total 421 yards a game. I mean, I cannot stress this enough. You're just not going to win football games when you're giving up 421 yards total per game.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing ultimately because my pocketbook's not going to look as good when I owe Zach $100 because the Lions fuck me.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh well.
Oh well, indeed. But yeah, I think that's it on the NFC North. Moving on to NFC South, you and I kind of had a brief discussion about this before we started recording. New Orleans and Atlanta are pretty scrappy teams.
Yeah, and Cordell Patterson should be coming back pretty soon here. I think I saw a video that he was at least training, so that makes the Falcons all the more dangerous on the offense. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and with the pairing of him and Kyle Pitts, you just got to think man, if Atlanta had a legitimate bona fide starting quarterback, they would actually be pretty good this year. Because Marcus Mariota's fine. He's not going to wow you with box score stats. To me, he's kind of in that Brissett.
He gets football, which
he can win you a couple games when you need it. But him as the number one. I mean, that's just you're not gonna win a ton of games, and it'd be cool to see Atlanta go out and draft a quarterback in the first round. That's a franchise-changing quarterback because Matt Ryan was a fine quarterback for them for the longest time, but aside from the 2016 Super Bowl appearance where he was MVP and they obviously blew the 29-3 lead to New England, Matt Ryan was never really a top 5, nor was he a top 7 quarterback in his career year to year, aside from that 2016 year. It would just be cool with the weapons that they do have on the offensive end to surround them with a guy who's a legit passing threat, like a Justin Herbert type, or name one of these young quarterbacks. I mean, like a Josh Allen, a Pat Mahomes. It would just be cool to see that in Atlanta because their fans are devout. They come to games, but they're just not good. So, yeah, this Atlanta team. I mean, they're 4-4 so far. They're leading the division because every other team is under 500. But Tampa Bay has been super underwhelming. Tom Brady's offense, they've been injury prone, whether it's Evans.
And you can tell they're missing Gronkowski, that's for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, what is it? Sorry, I always get his name wrong. It was Baldwin or Goodwin? Sorry, Godwin. Jeez.
Oh yeah.
Baldwin. Godwin and Evans have been in and out of the lineup all year. And
Well, yeah. I mean, you got Evans getting suspended because he's
Right.
getting in fights with dudes. It's like you're their best option on the offense.
Yeah.
You should be better than this, and you're a veteran. You
Yeah.
know?
So I mean, this division, it's competitive in the sense that no one's really good. So it's anybody's division.
You can lead it at 500.
Exactly. And who's to say any of these 4 teams gets over 500? Because there's not a team that jumps out at you that's like, wow, this team's like, the record doesn't show how good they are. Like, no, all these teams are pretty bad. I mean, Carolina's pretty bad. All the first game of the year hype between Carolina and the Browns with Baker Mayfield. I mean, they've been somewhat of a disappointment this year. Like I said, I mean, New Orleans, it is what it is. You know, Taysom Hill can.
New Orleans is a fascinating team though, because they'll come out and they'll win.
Yeah.
Like they shut out Vegas, and we touched on it that Vegas isn't that great, but still, it's hard to shut out a football team in the NFL.
Well, and offensively, Vegas is actually a pretty damn good team. I think they're top 10 offensively, and for New Orleans to shut them out, this New Orleans team still feels like it's a Sean Payton coach team. Like it still feels like any week is theirs to win.
Yeah, I think their biggest struggle right now is probably in the quarterback department.
Yeah, because Jameis has been hurt.
Yeah, and I mean Jameis Winston is nothing to write home about. He's never been. So
he was in college, Heisman and a national championship.
Yeah, but kind of a bust in the NFL. He had
True.
Season that he threw just as many touchdowns as he did interceptions.
That's right. It was like 28 and 28 or something like that, right? In Tampa.
And that was recently. That was like 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it was the year before Brady went to Tampa, so it would have been 2020 or 2019, one of the two.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're maybe a good draft pick at the quarterback position away from
being a legit
competitive team once again, because they got the bones still. Like Alvin Kamara is really good.
Yeah, and that is something we haven't touched on. Is Alvin Kamara is still just a force to be reckoned with in the running game. I mean, he is still every bit of as good as he was when New Orleans had their runs with Drew Brees. I mean, Alvin Kamara has been the one constant in this offense that you kind of look at. You're like, well, at least I know he's going to give me 100 yards and a touchdown or two every game.
Yeah.
You know? He's the one fallback that they have, aside from Taysom Hill.
Well, and what about Michael Thomas? Is he hurt or just not showing up?
This has been his whole career. I don't even want to call him a what if, because I don't think he ever was necessarily established. He had a really good 1 year with Breeze, but you could chalk that up to just a Breeze-led Sean Payton offense. Yeah, I mean, Thomas, who knows? Who knows where he's at? I can pull up if there's any injury information, but I'm pretty sure it's injury related, which is the story of his career.
Yeah, I mean, just another unfortunate, really.
Yeah. True. Yeah, I mean, this division is up for grabs. It kind of feels like how the NFC East was last year. If you remember, like Washington was able to get into the playoffs because they were like a game about 500. Cowboys, Eagles, they were both pretty bad. So yeah, this just kind of feels like the worst division in all of football, honestly. So like the AFC South at least has Tennessee. You know, this division doesn't have a single team over 500.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we can't go in our last division here then at the NFC West.
Yeah. Starting with the surprising Seattle leading the division. 5-3.
Yeah, definitely thought that was going to be a team that wasn't going to do anything, but Geno Smith is really stepping up and
He looks great
leading
under
them to victories.
Yeah, he looks great under the Pete Carroll offense. As you said, I mean, if you were to have laid out all 4 teams in this division in front of me and told me to pick one team who's going to finish 4th, I would have picked Seattle. Because I mean, on paper, you look at San Francisco the year they had last year, going to the NFC Championship. You look at the Rams going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl last year, and then Arizona had a good year last year as well. And for Seattle to be leading this division through 8 games, I mean, it's actually pretty mind blowing considering the competition they have in this division. But it just seems like they're the only ones that are able to put up numbers on the board, because San Francisco struggles on the offensive end. Arizona, up until one Thursday ago, struggled to put up boards.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona was also missing DeAndre Hopkins, though. So
yeah, but
and both the running backs have been injured. So, and also, I mean, a new Call of Duty did just drop. So Kyler Murray was destined to not have a game that weekend either. So, I mean,
yeah,
really,
him and DeAndre Ayton were stuck up in an Arizona hotel playing Call of Duty until the sunless hours of the night. So you can't depend on him to win you a football game if he's screaming into the mic during a game of search and destroy at 4 a.m. the night before. But
exactly.
I digress.
I mean, I think the 49ers are going to come out as the winners of that division for sure.
Yeah, if the Rams don't figure it out offensively, which Stafford just needs to target other guys not named Cooper Kupp. I mean, it's that simple. He has weapons.
I mean, one thing I think that people aren't focusing on enough with the Rams is the loss of Cam Akers and just
for sure
how, like, their run game is non-existent, quite literally.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have a team that's coming in to every game and the opposing defense knows what they're going to do. And it's like, okay, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, go out and beat us. Like, try.
And Allen Robinson literally gets 2 targets a game, if that. Like, he's not even a second slot receiver, which is what you brought him in for. And he's literally not getting targeted. Like, again, it's Cooper Kupp is getting just over 9 targets a game.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp also picked up an injury this past weekend.
Right.
So we'll see if things change offensively for them or not. But
yeah,
I mean, ultimately, I think the Rams and the Bengals have the exact same Super Bowl hangover going for them.
Sure.
Where they're teams that should be doing a lot better than they are, but just things just aren't clicking for some reason. So
sure, and you could sit here and make the argument that really any of these 4 teams could be in the playoffs at the end of the year. Like, they're all good enough to be playoff teams.
But if I had to hedge my bet, it's going to be the 49ers that are.
Hey, and I wouldn't blame you for hedging that bet, because that's a safe bet. I mean, the Niners are every bit of as good as we thought they were. And I don't know.
I would say 2 of those losses that they have come from the Trey Lance experiment.
That is, and in the first week when we went through our opening week predictions, I talked about how that Chicago versus the 49ers matchup, Chicago was just catching them at the right time. Like, inexperienced quarterback in a new system. Like, defense was going to be obviously really good. Niners defense is fantastic, but
you can't even, like, that game was so weird though. The weather and everything.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I just think Chicago caught them at the right time. And I believe, I mean, the listeners can go back to that. I believe it's episode 2.5. I believe I said in it, the Niners are going to be the better team at the end of the year. Their record's going to be the better of the two, and they're going to be a playoff team. But that week 1, I mean, that was just an anomaly. So, like, I don't have any weight on that game. Like, I think the Niners could just as easily be 6-2 right now instead of 4-4. Like I
Yeah,
think
100%.
I think they're that good. And Jimmy Garoppolo, while you can say what you want about him not being a Super Bowl winning quarterback or not being like talented enough to bring your team over the hump, he's still going to win you regular season games. He's going to do enough. He's got enough weapons around him, whether it's Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuels, George Kittle. Like they have a ton.
And that's another thing is George Kittle is just coming back from injury too. They didn't have him earlier this season.
Right. So, and I think they're on a bye this week. So, like much like Denver, I think if you're a San Francisco fan, you just hope that they take the bye week seriously, figure out some of the stuff that they're not doing well on the field, and just come back next week and put their foot on the gas. I mean, this is really the time of year to ramp things up.
Yeah, I mean, like just going back to their losses, they had that week 1 loss, and then week 3 they lose 11-10 to the Broncos. Like
ugly, which makes sense because it's the Broncos. I mean,
and I think that was the first game that they go, okay, Jimmy, you're our guy now.
Yeah.
And so
Trey Lance got hurt in that Denver game, correct?
I don't know, either he got hurt or they were just like, yeah, this isn't working.
No, he got hurt and they put Garoppolo in immediately. I believe like Lance was.
But then you come out, you blow out the Rams, you blow out the Panthers, you get blown out by the Falcons, and then the Chiefs in back-to-back weeks. And then you come back this weekend or this last weekend and run it against the Rams. And like hardcore too, against a team that should have a really good defense. I mean, you got guys like Aaron Darnold and Jalen Ramsey out there. Like that should be a defense that is very formidable, but you just have so many offense weapons and the 49ers that like it's just out overpowering.
Yeah, that first matchup between the Niners and the Rams was a really fun game to watch. I believe it was in San Francisco. That was kind of one of the more fun like divisional matchups we've had this year.
I mean, they've got both of their matchups now are over.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying that first game I was like, oh, this Niners team is like, it was pretty clear in that first game that I'm talking about in San Francisco that it was like, it's pretty clear this team is that much better than its competition. It's just whether or not they can have a quarterback to lead the offense. Like that's the only thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's basically everything I got.
You want to touch on Arizona really quick? They've looked a little bit better
with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins.
That dude is so good.
Dude had a nasty catch.
Can we just take a step back? Can we just say how bullshit it is that dude got suspended for 6 weeks? 6 weeks for a just out of the blue, as in the most literal sense, like 1 in a million positive testing on a steroid test. Hasn't tested positive once in his entire career. Freak positive. And he gets suspended for 6 games. Like the league's not going to look into that. One of their best receivers, one of the guys people watch the most in the entire NFL, and be like, this guy's never tested positive for steroids. He tested for 0.001 whatever percent positive. Like clearly this was just like some freak positive that happened. Like I don't understand how the league doesn't give him a retest. Like it is what it is. He's starting, we're past it, but it's just so dumb. Like this
is Rodgers' league. So
yeah.
Also the same league that only suspended Deshaun Watson for 11 games for what was fairly obvious, but
26 sexual assault cases.
Yeah.
Make
sure he did settle and walk away from it, but
this is why we're more of a basketball podcast, because at the very least, Adam Silver is a fair to Midland commissioner compared to just the power crazy Roger Goodell.
Well, he's only getting more crazy now that Jeff Bezos is paying him $13 billion over the next 10 years for Thursday Night Football.
How have you been
It's-
feeling about these prime games on
I
Thursday
mean, I'm
nights?
okay with it because I know how to use Prime. I just know that the old timers are getting pretty
I
pissed
know.
off and figuring out not how not to work it.
Yeah. Yeah, I we watch obviously, Monday night, Thursday night, but it's kind of weird watching Thursday night games on Prime. It's weird in general to watch Thursday night games, like period, just because obviously growing up we didn't watch, like, football wasn't on Thursday nights, but to see it on a Thursday night on Amazon Prime, future man, pretty crazy. Like,
I kind of like the analytics that they put up. I think that's pretty fascinating.
go into detail. What
Oh,
animal?
I mean, just like they'll throw up like some like just outrageous stat, and it's like on the fly, and like some of the VR that they do, and with the players and tracking their movements and whatnot.
Oh, cool. I honestly haven't seen that.
Oh, I mean, I forget if you're in the Amazon app, actually, like it's even more like interactive and whatnot rather than watching it on the TV. But even on the TV, sometimes they're throwing up stuff that I'm like, this is pretty cool. I don't like
But
it, but it's pretty cool.
fair enough. The real question is, have you been watching the Peyton and Eli Monday night streams at all?
Oh yeah. No, I don't throw theirs on. I throw on the normal game. I just
Ian and I will do it every once in a while. They're pretty fun. Obviously, they know what they're talking about more than any of these guys commentating, aside from like Romo and like Aikman and the guys who have played. But they had like Bill Burr on last week. That was really fun. I think it was Patriots Bears game was last week. So
yeah.
they had like Vince Vaughn, who's a Bears fan, and
Huh.
Burr, who's a Patriots fan, and I think Barack Obama was on too. But there's like, I mean, it's just funny. I mean, Peyton and Eli's back and forth together. Obviously, they're brothers, but Peyton's such like the big brother. He's just always giving Eli shit about everything. So it's kind of like a fun take on like the streaming world of sports, like live streaming sports games, commentating over it. It's kind of cool. Like the NFL is definitely like pioneering that sense, because obviously like Twitch and all that, there's a huge like market for people live streaming events like that and like being like a self commentator role in games. So it's kind of cool to watch that Peyton and Eli stream. But yeah, I don't know. As far as like the best two teams from each conference, what do you have? Is it pretty cut and dry? Chiefs, Bills, and then Philly, Minnesota, or do you have a dark horse in there?
I don't know. I mean, I'll throw the 49ers in there.
At
As
4-4, you think they're
yeah,
wow? There you go.
definitely think they get better too. Yeah, that'll be my dark horse from the NFC, from the AFC. No.
Fair enough.
There's no one that's gonna come out there and beat the Bills or the Chiefs in playoff football.
I gotta say, if there's a dark horse on the AFC, I'll just go with Baltimore. I just think they're the only offense that's like creative enough that like could do some damage in the playoffs. But there's not like how like Cincinnati was last year. There's not a team that like jumps off the paper in the AFC that's not in the city of Buffalo or the city of Kansas City. So
That's fair.
all right. I think we can end it here. It's a hot episode 7. There will be a Seton Hall episode coming out, so look out for that. And then we should all be together in the Midwest pretty soon here for the opening. Was it World Cup, right? Opening
I mean,
American
it opens
matches.
the 20th of November, so
So
Maybe
second week then, right? Like it'll be the following Friday that we're all together.
they'll be the Friday of opening week. So that the 20th is a Tuesday, a Monday or Tuesday, and then the USA plays England that Friday that we're all going to be hanging out. So
Cool. Yeah. So we'll record an episode in person. We'll do some soccer world stuff. I say you get like a Champions League episode going one of these Wednesdays.
yeah, we did just finish the group stage, so we could probably do that.
So, all right. Well, this has been a good app. Cheers to you. Zerch is probably somewhere on his way back. Yeah. Do you want any closing statements or do you want to end this puppy?
Now we can just end it.
All righty. Tune in next week. Go ahead before we leave. Go Pirates, baby.
Dude, I'm looking at